Have you ever played a 4X game? If not, roll with me for a moment here. Imagine yourself at the helm of a powerful nation, engaging in a battle of wits, might, and diplomacy. Building your empire across an expansive world, guiding your people to prosperity. These aren't the stories of a lone super soldier saving the galaxy or a skilled general winning an important battle. These are the stories of leaders changing the course of history. And they're written by you. Let's take a step back. It's 1993, and video games are hot.
It's Super Mario All-Stars is free!
I want to know how!
Anyone with their finger on the pulse of the industry had a magazine subscription, or two, or three. Computer Gaming World was where the strategy game enthusiasts would go to get their fix. And in 1993, a game called Master of Orion made its way into their hands.
And with Master of Orion, you can rule an entire galaxy.
I was looking at a great new game with my buddy, Tom Hughes. He says, yeah, it's kind of like a 4X game, and then he explained it to me and I said, oh, you know what? I can refine that and use that in my article.
This is Alan Emrich, and in 1993, he previewed Master of Orion for Computer Gaming World. The rating he gave it? XXXX.
The sequence of events in the game are explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. That's how the overarching story unfolds. That's how it got its name. And that is a genre of game that I played long before computer games ever came out.
Master of Orion wasn't the first of its kind, and its mechanisms draw inspiration from video games like Empire, and even further back, tabletop games like Imperialism. In these games, you explore the world, find all the juicy resources, you exploit those resources to gain wealth so you can build up your military and conquer the other players. Sound familiar? Though not all 4X games are the same flavor, generally, they'll empower the player on a macro level, giving extensive control over scientific and technological research, economy and trade, governmental policy, and whether or not you wish to wield your military might on your path to victory. As players explore, expand, and discover, the threads of a 4X game dangle in front of them, asking to be woven into an intricate narrative web.
Exploring pulls you in. And as you discover stuff, your mind instantly, a dot, another dot, there's a dot, and you start to connect the dots. And so now you're doing what the mind likes to do best. Discovering dots is one thing. Connecting them, that's the fun of gaming. Now you are making meaningful decisions. You're writing your story as you play. You built that. You found those. You discovered that other. You wrote this story large in your 4X universe. You cut that swath through it. You faced the obstacles. You overcame. You did what you had to do to emerge on top.
This player-driven narrative is a core part of a 4X game, and what contributes to their one-more-turn nature. The designer orchestrates a series of events, and the player directs the story by making a series of meaningful decisions. The effect of this relationship between designer and player is what Alan proposes as a 5X experience.
That's really living the story. It's adding elements to the game that really give the story verisimilitude, that really make it feel real. You're moving past the game and into a simulation.
Throughout the 1990s, 4X games were continually expanding in one direction or another. Civilization asked players to understand the consequences of war and mass production by including pollution and global warming mechanics. Master of Orion included distinct factions and introduced diplomatic victories. and Master of Magic had a crafting system, allowing players to equip their heroes. Even on the surface, these kinds of games seem like a lot to take in, and they are, which is part of the appeal, part of the experience. But when it comes to the design of 4X games, is there such a thing as too much?
A lot of these games overwhelm the player. The indiscriminate kitchen sink-itis of game design is a hell of a lot of fun. But, you don't want the player lost in the weeds. I only need to know enough to be able to make cool decisions and affect the world so that I will enjoy the game. That's what the player wants. They want to feel like they're in control, they're not lost, they're not wondering what to do, they're not wondering what the hell is that in this game for. That is the hardest part of game design. Or any design, is knowing what's removed.
As we look back at the 4X games of old and put them side by side with the 4X games of the early 21st century, there's an obvious resemblance. This isn't a negative, per se. In fact, it's expected. But Alan, who has been developing 4X games for decades and playing them for much longer, believes that the potential of the genre has yet to be unlocked.
This is a 4X game. It's a pair of scissors. It's a tool. It's like anything else. You could have dice games, card games. 4X is just a genre. It's a milieu. You could apply it to anything, from gardening to microbial research. 4X can fit just about anywhere if you're clever enough. Right now, everybody's obsessed with just the one ingredient. Let's bend that. The limits are only the limits of your imagination.
Like the player while crafting their story, the mechanisms in a 4X game are adaptable, and the dressings with which they commonly adorn represent just a fraction of what the ideas behind them can be applied towards. To Alan, life is like a 4X game, minus the extermination, of course. You build, you are empowered to make meaningful decisions, and you leave behind a legacy.